back to ATCK Diaries, and welcome to our first ever video podcast. I'm Shira.
And I'm Elsie.
And today we're diving into a topic that every third culture kid eventually faces: adulthood and the workplace. Growing up between cultures gives us a unique set of skills, but how do we translate into professional success?
Today we're joined by Angelica, an adult third culture kid, or shortwise known as an ATCK, to explore the ATCK advantage and how global experiences shape career paths, adaptability, and leadership. Whether you're just starting to think about your future or already planning your career, this one's for you. Let's get into it. So welcome. So this is our guest today, Angelica. And we just want to start off with a few basic questions, like where have you lived before? Like which countries?
Excellent. I'm just, first of all, I want to say I'm really pleased to join you. I think you've chosen a brilliant theme for your podcast. And I also admire your approach to the theme with both a great deal of self-awareness and honesty. So it's an honor to be here. And I suppose I'm a four culture kid. So it's the countries I've lived in are Sweden, the US, England, and France.
Yeah.
Wow, it's a lot of countries.
Yeah. So what would you think is a particular trait that ATCKs have that usually help them in the workplace?
Yeah, it's a huge question. The list is endless, really, but I'd say the most important one is definitely the ability to adapt to change and uncertainty, and to do so very quickly. But I also want to mention the importance of understanding the power of diversity. I think we grow more resilient, and having the right communication skills to properly connect with people. We can explore these together. But I also believe that these traits will be even more relevant to your generation. So if you think about the world today, well, it's crazily volatile, it's all interconnected, changing at a mad rate, uncertain, multicultural, politically challenging. So I think it really needs you.
Yeah, because from moving from place to place and learning the certain nuances between countries, we've realized that even now, before we even get to the workplace, it helps us communicate better with others.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely certain. And I've seen that in so many of you. The communication skills are just way above other people of your age. So you're on the right track, guys.
Do you mind sharing a childhood experience that when you were a kid felt negative at times, but now it's actually a benefit in your work?
And I will thank you for mentioning this particular question in advance, because I had to think about it for a while, because you want it to be properly applicable. So the one I've chosen, I was 15. How old are you now?
15.
I'm
Yeah,
14,
I thought
though.
so. I was 15, living in northern Sweden, and my dream was to spend a year in a US high school. So I got accepted as an exchange student at McMinnville High School in Oregon. And there I stayed in a host family I'd never met, and I didn't see my own family for one whole year. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
I know, one whole year. It
Always
wasn't
wanted to do
allowed. I
that.
mean, these were the old days. It wasn't allowed. So the organization was very strictly against that. So you can imagine I was madly homesick, and it didn't help that my English was almost non-existent. So then I remember the first day of school, and when I looked at the schedule and so that I saw that both public speaking and drama were compulsory topics, and I froze with fear. So fast forward to my first public speaking test in front of the class. So I had these sheets of paper with my notes, and because I was so nervous, my hands were shaking like mad, and the paper was rattling so much that you could barely hear my voice. So, and then afterwards came the comments. So it was quite a clever concept, and I wish, in fact, now I wish that it was compulsory in European schools. So both the teacher and the students delivered feedback in various categories like facial expression, tone of voice, pace of talking, all very constructive. And one boy in the class wrote, "I used to be that nervous too." And his tip to me was to use plastic pockets so that the pages would just slide silently. And which I did until my nervousness disappeared. But I had wonderful support from everyone that whole year. And I got the main role in the annual school play. And the
Oh.
takeaway, I know I was just mad, and I was on the front page of the local newspaper. So it was a great confidence boost. But I suppose the takeaway that applies to all of us is that no one is laughing at you. And we need these uncomfortable moments to grow. And it's also to remember that most people want to help you. And a while ago, I held a day's workshop at the Chamber of Commerce in Dubai to inspire female entrepreneurs in the region. And the point is, we need each other to grow stronger, to build bridges.
Yeah. We also had similar experiences with us learning French and
Yeah,
while being in a French school.
yeah,
And
of
it was quite
course. And yeah,
nerve-wracking to learn that new language and go in front of the public and like, this is a whole new language. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to make so many mistakes. I used to be
yeah,
perfect in my old language. How do I like adapt to
yeah.
this new one?
And that's a very good point, because languages, I think maybe perhaps these days we underestimate the language learning because of AI and everything, but we know that language is so much more than just a translation app. It's about when you overcome, when you conquer a language, it's about properly connecting with people. It's about nuances. It's about, yeah, your personality coming across. I really, really admire you for going through that. And I know how you feel when you can properly communicate. I mean, I feel we have that with all languages, but yeah, well done you, and keep it up.
Um, so can you briefly describe your job and give us an example of how being ATCK has helped you in your role?
Okay, so it's a little, my my job is a little bit complex. I have to break it down a bit, but I'm an entrepreneur as well as a business consultant with a specialty in cultural integration in M&A, mergers and acquisitions. And I'd say that both roles are directly relevant to the skill set I mentioned, and that you're building as TCKs. Um, and I think especially adapting to change and uncertainty is, yeah, the key in my role within M&A. So if I break it up a bit, in a nutshell, M&A is a way to help a company create value by merging with or buying another company. And there can be many different reasons for a company to merge. It could be that the target company has the skills you need or the company needs, markets you got your eyes on, or a different client profile than yours that you're after. So it's incredibly complex to integrate two companies. It's like the cultures we're used to trying to integrate into. And it's often ignoring culture that completely kills an M&A deal. So there are two types of culture here. So the corporate culture, which is basically the people in the deal. So it's the people who work for the organization, so their attitudes, beliefs, and we can all relate to this. It's a beliefs, ways of doing business. And then, of course, there's national culture, where you merge companies from two different countries. So out of M&A deals that fail, about 80% fail because of not managing cultural differences. So we all know that differences can be amazing, can be great, but they need to be identified pre-deal. They need to be planned for and managed right. So this is where I come in. And the most infamous example of this type of merger is a Daimler Chrysler merger where the deal loss was over $30 billion, and that was directly caused by cultural clashes. So I do something, it's hard to put it in a few sentences, but I part of my role is to conduct something called cultural due diligence, where I interview CEOs, so the whole board, and employees to flag differences in the two companies that can break a deal. And then I help the company plan for the merger with a strategy to avoid these clashes and ultimate collapse. So they can be around management style, approach to innovation, employee engagement, and that type of thing. But also we talked about communication skills, and you need these in an M&A to win over employees, which are often the biggest asset of a deal. So getting them to pull in the same direction is another power of what we can do with communication, because uncertainty, as we know, has a huge impact on performance. So people are afraid of not fitting in, losing their job, worried about the future. So you need to build trust, and you need them to see the big picture of the merger. And I think that global perspective is something that you're now gaining very much by being a TCK. Because without trust in a merger, in my job, productivity levels plummet and employees leave. And I think also as an ATCK, it's probably easier to be proactive instead of reactive. So I think you are already now beginning to see patterns, being better at predicting, and you're good at building bridges. That's what I do in a nutshell.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So
And in what ways do
Go
you
on.
think that being an ATCK has brought you like a unique perspective to the professional environment?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to your first podcast, and I think this is something you too have already begun to demonstrate. When you remember when you were exploring the challenges and vulnerabilities in you dealing with these change situation. So I think this is interesting from, so my other role is an entrepreneur. So this is interesting from an entrepreneur startup perspective. And I know lots of your fellow students are coming up with business ideas already and thinking about, maybe I'll be an entrepreneur. And so imagine you've had your brilliant idea, you've tested your product, you've done your risk analysis and business plan, perhaps you've even got some investors lined up, and you as a TCK will find it easier to take the leap because you're already used to leaving your comfort zone, right? And I think I know I've already heard you talk about this. So I know that you understand this whole thing that trusting ourselves and that we can cope in the end makes us more decisive, which of course you need to have as an entrepreneur. And also and I think two other bits that I keep whenever I give conferences and workshops, I talk about the importance of imagination and being better at predicting what's around the corner, which I think you are already getting, expecting the unexpected, learning from patterns. In business, you use something called risk scenarios, which all makes you better at crisis management. So again, all this is linked to what I keep getting back to, our ability to adapt to uncertainty and change. And I think also your, how you were talking, I said you had this self-aware approach in your podcast. And I think being more self-aware will make you a more authentic leader, which is so important. Does that make sense? An authentic leader? So,
Yes,
when
it does.
so you genuinely know your strengths and weaknesses, you know what you're good at, but we also know what we need to delegate to others.
Yeah, like with what you said earlier, like what we mentioned before about being a bit In our first podcast, we mentioned about being a bit restless. And I think that would
Yeah,
also tie in because it could be negative where we can't really stay in a place too long. But it also means that we're able to change.
yeah,
And if we were going to start up a business, we would be
yeah.
able to take that risk.
Oh, that's very interesting. So the rest, yeah, that you're restless, but I think also that can be linked to, it's just the way I think the mind becomes, yeah, you just need, I think I mentioned in the beginning, you need the pace. Yeah, so the world is changing really quickly, business is changing quickly, so we need to think quickly. So I suppose you're right that a consequence of that can be that restlessness. But I think the way you adapt quickly and think quickly, so in the end, that is a great advantage to you. And I think also the when you're exploring what you want to do in life, there's something I've always been struck by. Um, have you heard of the Japanese philosophy of purpose called Ikigai?
No, we
Oh,
haven't.
this is really cool. So it's a philosophy around purpose, because it doesn't matter how brilliant you are as an entrepreneur, unless you have that purpose, it's not going to be sustainable. So you ask yourself when you're exploring what to do in life, whatever age you are. So there are four core questions. One, what am I really good at? Two, what do I really love doing? Three, what can I give to the world? And four, of course, how can I earn money? So these, I like showing these in like an intersection diagram because they all need to be linked together. But yeah, so they're all these little things, but also being true to yourself, which hearing you too is just so blissful, because it's just really authentic. And so being an entrepreneur takes guts and sweat and discipline. There are always going to be setbacks, but that's just a natural part of the business. But I'm convinced also that being what do you call me, an ATCK, has given me a good dose of resilience, because all the situations you've described in your podcast just give you a huge amount of resilience, and just, I'm going to stay with it and you will succeed.
Yeah.
And that's just the beginning. We've only scratched the surface of the ATCK advantage, but there's still so much more to uncover.
In part two, we'll tackle the biggest questions left unanswered and dive even deeper into what makes this strategy so powerful. So if you thought this was eye-opening, just wait, because the best is yet to come. Stay tuned.
Bye.